Okay. Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. My name is Leena Kashyap and I am a retired faculty from the Tata Institute of Social Sciences. I have been teaching courses in this institute on areas related to family and child welfare and disability studies. Today, I am going to talk about curricular aspects of learning in the paper on fieldwork and fieldwork supervision. What does field placement provide you with? It provides you with an educationally based hands-on experience that enables you to do a lot of things. Now, why do we need fieldwork placement in social work education? It's because what is taught in the classroom needs to be, this is a professional discipline. It's not just a discipline like sociology where you do research or where you gain knowledge. Okay, it is also very different, and you need, you are going to become a professional when you do a master's program in social work, and which is different from doing social work as a citizen, as an individual, and out of altruistic motives. When you do it out of altruistic motives, you do not really, you have a good, your heart is in the right place, you want to do good for people, but you do not really have the relevant knowledge, skills and also attitudes for helping people to help themselves. And very often when you do not have these, what you may do may be actually counterproductive and may actually be harmful to the people you work with. And that is why it is important to have an educational background in social work to be actually do effective social work practice. Now, in social work education, there are two parts: the classroom learning and the learning that takes place, what we call field education, or the learning that takes place in the field. And the learning that takes place in the field, it provides you with certain things. It provides you with an educationally based hands-on experience. And this hands-on experience helps you to develop an ongoing and deeply self-reflexive professional approach to the work. Very often people do things in an impulsive manner because they feel pity, they feel sympathy for a person. You need to reflect on why you are doing whatever it is you are doing. Also, this field work and hands-on experience through the field practicum helps you to integrate the learned social work knowledge, skills and values typically associated with the profession. You will also learn to make connections with clients, colleagues, community and the world. Because when you work with people, you are not working alone. They live in a community, they live in a family, and so you need to work with the individual as well as the people around that individual. And the hands-on experience through fieldwork will also help you to gain the core competencies needed by you to work as a professional social worker, which are not only integral to effective practice but will also have positive benefits for you as well. Now, how is this fieldwork transacted? It's not as if we put you in a fieldwork agency and allow you to swim through the 2 years that you are studying in the master's program. Your learning in the field, just like your learning in the classroom, is closely monitored by the faculty, by your professors. In the same way, your learning in the field is closely monitored and supervised by the fieldwork instructor and the faculty advisor from the Department of Social Work. What will happen in the field placement? You will be given assignments or tasks by your fieldwork supervisor, and also with your supervisor as well as with other students who may be placed in the same or similar settings. You will have group conferences. The group conferences will be with your supervisor as well as your field contact. Sometimes your faculty advisor also may participate in it, and of course the fellow students. Now, there are, as I mentioned, a very major aspect of the field placement is for you to gain core competencies which then make you an effective social worker, and you are able to have an effective social work practice. What are these core competencies? What are these core competencies? There are 11 core competencies. I will first briefly just name these competencies, and then I will explain each of these core competencies, because this is the goal that you need to reach at the end of the 2 years. Okay, so now let's look at these core competencies. The first core competency is that you now identify yourself as a professional social worker and conduct yourself accordingly. The second one is that you apply social work ethical principles to guide professional practice. The third one is that you have developed self-awareness and support structures for effective practice. The fourth one is that you apply critical thinking to inform and communicate professional judgments. The fifth one is that you engage diversity and difference in practice. The sixth one is that you advocate for human rights and social and economic justice by engaging in practice that advance social and economic justice. The seventh one is that you apply knowledge of human behavior and the social environment. The eighth one is that you integrate theory and practice. The ninth one is that you engage in policy practice to advance social and economic well-being and to deliver effective social work practice. The 10th one is that you demonstrate your ability to respond to contexts that shape practice. And 11th, and the last one, is that you demonstrate your ability to engage, to assess, to intervene, and to evaluate with individuals, families, groups, organizations, and communities by following processes. Okay, now let's look at each one of them. The first one, you now identify yourself as a professional social worker and conduct yourself accordingly. What does it really mean? It means that you show that you have this competency when you, in the way you advocate for the client's access to the services of social work. Very often, our services are riddled. I have always felt that when I go into a hospital, I just don't know where to go. And social workers in hospital settings really guide students through the processes that they have to go through when they want to access the services, say, of a hospital setting. Not only that, you have been able to write out a plan that you may want to give to a corporator, and you may help them to go to your ward corporator, your municipal in your municipal corporation, so that certain services which certain people, vulnerable groups have not been able to access so far, are able to do so. the manner in which you attend to social roles and social boundaries. Now this is really very important, because we are social workers. We are not people who can do anything and everything. So we need to have boundaries, and our roles are very clear. Though we have very multiple roles of being a helper, an advocate, an advisor, and a lot of roles, yet with the multiple roles we also have boundaries. There are certain things we can't do. For instance, we cannot deal with, say, a very severely mentally ill person. We are not equipped to do that. That is our boundary, and we have to refer that person to the relevant professional, and not try and help that person ourselves. You also will demonstrate your identification to the profession by your professional demeanor in behavior, appearance, and communication, and your participation in organizations which seek to enhance the development of the profession. So there are professional organizations of social workers which you may want to join and which you may contribute towards their work. The second one, competency, is that your professional practice is guided by social work ethical principles. By the end of the 2 years, you have managed to recognize and manage personal values that in a way that allows professional values to guide your practice. The one thing that comes to my mind immediately is that we all live in a patriarchal society, and yet when we talk to our clients, we want equality, equity for our clients, when we ourselves have grown up in an unequal environment. And so we need to be able to understand what is the environment that we are living in, to what extent we have been able to make changes in our own personal spaces, and in what way we've been able to imbibe the professional values of equality and equity. For instance, you make ethical decisions by applying standards of the National Association of Social Work, the Code of Ethics, and you recognize the importance of maintaining confidentiality, establishing professional boundaries, and the need for operationalizing the social work values of dignity and the worth of the person. Confidentiality is not just a principle, and may be understood differently by different people. In our society, we are a very family-oriented society, and everybody within the family may know what is going on with us. In fact, we are also a community-oriented society, and sometimes the community also knows what is happening to us and in our lives. So, but when somebody comes to us and confides their issues and problems with us, we need to maintain confidentiality unless the person's life is in danger, or the person is at risk of harming self or others. Then the third competency is that you have developed self-awareness and support structures for effective practice. Now, you know, what this means is that you have developed both a self-awareness of your own emotions, the way you react to situations and people, and also the way others react to situations and people. And you are able to regulate, you are able to control, you know, these emotions. You have developed resilience as a strategy for coping with negative events and for preventing and curing burnout at the personal and as well as structural and political levels. Very often, it's never smooth sailing for any of us, and especially for a trained social worker. Stress is a inevitable part of our lives because we are trying to help people who are stressed, and so quite often we are faced with negative events, and when you are constantly faced with negative events, a situation does happen when you feel what one calls burnt out. That is, you feel your senses you become desensitized, you stop you kind of shut out your feelings from certain situations. We need to prevent that, and it's important that we look after ourselves also, because unless we look after ourselves, we can't look after others, and we can't help others unless we are able to help ourselves. And in order to do that, we need to develop our own support systems. When we help clients to develop their support systems, we also as social workers need to develop our own support systems by keeping in touch and in contact with colleagues who are supportive of our work, who will not judge us, whom we can use as a sounding board, and who accept us unconditionally, and who will give us emotional support, sometimes mentoring and guidance in order to develop resilience. The third competence is that you are able to apply critical thinking to inform and communicate professional judgments. Now, one can say that you have learned critical thinking when you are able to distinguish, appraise and integrate multiple sources of knowledge, including research-based knowledge and practice wisdom. By practice wisdom, I mean that what sometimes we may call intuitiveness, what we may call our lived experiences, those are part of practice experience. So when we are applying critical thinking, we are looking at the research-based knowledge as well as the practice wisdom that we may have acquired over the years. You are able to analyze models of assessment, prevention, intervention and evaluation, and you are able to demonstrate effective oral and written communication in working with your client groups. They could be individuals, families, groups, organizations, communities, or even with colleagues. Now, critical reflection is an extension of critical thinking. Critical reflection involves thinking about one's own practice in a way that responds to changing contexts and challenges, and emphasizes the importance of uncovering power relations and questioning dominant structures and relations. The next competence is that you engage diversity and difference in practice, that you are able to identify multiple and diverse experiences, perspectives, and appreciate how and why these have developed. This really means that you understand the perspectives of all people, that you are open to listening to other people's perspectives, including your own as a student that you might have developed, and that you realize that there is no one perspective. There could be several perspectives to any given situation or event. You identify also how your own perspective influences the situation, and develop a work plan based on different perspectives. Because of your set of experiences, you may have a different perspective to a particular situation, whereas your faculty supervisor may have a different perspective, your fellow student may have another perspective. When you are engaging with diversity and difference in practice, you take in all these different perspectives when you plan when you make your work plan. And and through your own self-awareness, you have been able to eliminate the influence of personal biases and values with diverse groups. Now, you may have been brought up to say not really communicate with particular groups of people, with particular sections of the population, with particular religious groups. When you are, one can say you've gained competency to engage in diversity and difference in practice, you will have understood and you will have eliminated the influence of personal biases which you may have, and still be able to work effectively with different diverse. The next competency is that you advocate for human rights and social and economic justice by engaging in practice that is that advocates for economic and social justice. Now, I don't think I need to say more on that. The next competency is that you apply knowledge of human behavior and social environment. This is something that you learn in your classroom, of how different behaviors influence the social environment and are influenced by their social environment. So you need to be able to effectively utilize conceptual frameworks and use them to guide your process of assessment, intervention and evaluation at the end of it. You are also able to critique and apply the knowledge to understand the person and the situation. You are able to integrate theory and practice. Now, this is a vital aspect of your competency. Theory in social work provides you with a conceptual framework and an explanation of what is happening in a given practice situation between the client and the social worker. It provides you direction in professional activities and it gives you the context to specific actions. When practice emerges from a strong theoretical base, it brings order into the practice by helping organize the mass of facts, impressions and suppositions developed in relationships with clients. It also helps in explaining the intervention activity to others. As student social workers, you will have demonstrated theory-based practice when you are able to understand the theories and concepts taught in the classroom, integrate thinking and action by linking these theories into practice, reflect on the action and be able to share your reflections on observations with others. The next competency is that you engage in policy practice to advance social and economic well-being and to deliver effective social work services. This means that you are able to analyze, formulate and advocate for policies that advance social well-being. You are able to collaborate with other colleagues and clients for effective policy action. This policy action could be in the form of reforming or making existing policy more effective. It could be advocating for a new policy which has not been there so far, of course you don't do it alone, you collaborate with colleagues as well as with clients. The next competency is that you demonstrate your ability to respond to contexts that shape practice. See, you must be able to continuously discover, appraise and attend to changing locales, populations, scientific and technological developments and emerging social trends that provide relevant services. You know, what was provided by certain agencies, say 20 years ago, they cannot continue to provide the same kind of services because some of the services may have become redundant. Some, in certain cases, newer services are needed by the clients because the situations have changed, the populations have changed. For example, in a given community where there was say only a primary health center, Now with say influx of refugees into that community, they may require a different kind of health services. Besides health services, they may require other kind of services which, as a community welfare agency, you may have to provide. And besides this, you are able to provide leadership in promoting sustainable changes in service delivery and practice to improve the quality of social services. And the last one is that you demonstrate your ability to work with individuals, families, groups and organizations and communities. You demonstrate your ability to use all the processes that are needed for social work practice. You are able to engage effectively with your client system so that to prepare them for action. You use empathy and other interpersonal skills. You develop a mutually agreed upon focus of work, and you agree upon the desired outcomes at the end of your engagement and interaction. You are able to assess. That means you are able to collect, organize, interpret client data, assess the client's strengths and limitations, develop mutually agreed upon intervention goals and objectives, and select appropriate intervention strategies. Now, do you realize that a very important aspect of any of these processes is that you do not do it on your own, you do it in consultation and in cooperation with your clients. The third process is intervention. You are able to initiate actions to achieve organizational goals, implement prevention interventions that enhance the client's capacities, help clients resolve problems, negotiate, mediate, advocate on behalf and with the clients and for the clients, and facilitate transitions and endings. And lastly, the last process is evaluation. You are able to critically analyze, monitor and evaluate your interventions with a view of seeing to what extent you have been able to achieve what you had started out to do. I hope that this module on curricular aspects of learning, in which I have essentially talked about the core competencies, has brought about some clarity to you on this topic. To summarize, in this section, what I have essentially talked about are the core competencies that you need to achieve at the end of the 2-year program, and explain to you what each of these core competencies is all about. I have given quite a few e-learning references at the end of this particular section, and I hope you will go through these, and I hope it will bring more clarity to you on this topic. Thank you.